What does it really take to walk away from a dream job? You know, a top spot at a place like Google or Stripe? Well, today, we're diving into the story of two founders who did exactly that. They traded all that security for the absolutely terrifying uncertainty of building an AI-powered cybersecurity startup right from the ground up.
I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? You have to have a screw loose? That really captures the sheer guts it takes. This was a massive gamble they were taking on a shared vision. So, okay, let's back up and see how this whole thing even got started.
All right, so this story really begins where two totally different worlds smashed into each other. And that collision? Well, that's what created the spark.
So let's meet our founders. First up, you've got Zara Perumal. She's the engineer, MIT trained, deep in the technical trenches of threat analysis over at Google. Then you have Arjun Bisen. He's coming at this from a completely different angle. He's the risk guy from Stripe, Harvard-educated, but not a coder. And it was this exact mix, the hardcore engineering brain and the big-picture risk perspective, that turned out to be their secret sauce.
The seeds for this idea really started to sprout after they reconnected while Zara was at Google. They started noticing a couple of huge things happening at the same time. First, you had these brand new AI language models, like BERT, just starting to emerge, and their potential was mind-blowing. But then they looked at the world of cyber defense and saw, well, a system that was completely overwhelmed. Everything was manual, super labor-intensive, and the defenders were just totally outnumbered, stuck in this constant, exhausting game of cat and mouse.
And that's when the big idea hit them. It was simple, but kind of revolutionary. What if they could take that new AI tech and use it as a force multiplayer for the good guys? You know, a way to finally give the defenders a real fighting chance. And boom, that became the core mission. That's what would launch their company, Overwatch Data.
Okay, having a great idea is one thing, but actually quitting your job and betting everything on it, that is a whole other ballgame. And that's what this next part is all about. That terrifying leap from the comfort of big tech into the chaos of a startup.
You can just feel the sheer panic in this quote from Arjun, right? He basically applied to Y Combinator, which is like the Harvard of startups, kind of on a whim during the pandemic. He probably never thought he'd actually get in, but then he did. And all of a sudden, this cool idea became an oh shoot, this is real moment. He was going to have to quit his job. The dream had just become a terrifying reality.
And when I say things move fast, I mean insanely fast. Arjun gets that call from YC. What's the first thing he does? He shoots Zara what he calls a random LinkedIn message. And Zara, in a whirlwind decision, she quits her job at Google. Just like that. Get this, by 6 o'clock the very next morning, she was already writing the first lines of code for their new company. A 24-hour whirlwind, literally.
And let's be super clear here. This wasn't a case of someone running away from a job they hated. Zara loved her work. She called being in Google's threat analysis group the coolest mission. In fact, she actually cried on her last day. So this wasn't an escape. It was a painful but deliberate leap toward a vision she believed in even more.
So, they made the leap. They're officially entrepreneurs. But the reality check is about to hit hard. The early days of a startup are anything but glamorous. It's all about the grind and being scrappy enough to survive.
Think about it. When you work at Google or Stripe, people pick up the phone when you call. But when you're just a new, unknown startup, it's a completely different world. Arjun figures that something like 99% of the people they reached out to either flat out ignored them or just said no. That's the brutal reality of getting a new idea off the ground.
Okay, this next part is honestly my favorite bit of their whole story. They had a classic chicken and egg problem. To get clients, they needed to show off their amazing AI. But to build the AI, they kind of needed clients and their feedback. So what did they do? They invented something they jokingly called Arjun Intelligence.
So what was Arjun Intelligence? Well, it was Arjun. It was pure, raw hustle. He'd wake up super early, manually dig through the internet for intelligence, or talking scouring Chinese search engines, and then he'd package it all up into this slick report that looked like it was spat out by a super sophisticated AI. I mean, talk about the ultimate fake-it-till-you-make-it strategy. It was genius.
And this hustle wasn't something that worked overnight. This grind went on for a long time. We're not talking weeks, we're talking over a full year of this. Pitching, building, and a whole lot of Arjun Intelligence before they finally landed that first big six-figure deal.
So that first big contract, that was the moment everything changed. It was the turning point. This is where their story shifts from just pure grind to actually discovering a repeatable, scalable business.
So what does Overwatch Data actually do today? Well, it's pretty much that army of AI analysts they dreamed of. The platform dives into the nasty corners of the internet, the dark web, Telegram, you name it. It finds threats that are relevant to a specific company, ranks them by how serious they are, and even suggests how to fix the problem. It's a huge help for companies struggling with that massive cybersecurity skills gap.
But here's a really crucial business lesson they had to learn along the way. They realized that who you're selling to matters. A lot. Pitching to a Chief Information Security Officer, a CISO, is totally different than pitching to the fraud team. The CISO is often thinking about compliance, checking boxes, saving resources. But the fraud team, they care about one thing: direct return on investment. Learning to speak both of those languages was an absolute game changer for them.
And that's really the key lesson here, isn't it? Their big breakthrough was realizing that a successful business isn't just about having the coolest technology. It's about deeply understanding who your buyer is and what specific problem you are solving for them.
All right, so let's wrap this up by looking at where things are headed. They've cracked the code on their product, which is huge. But now the challenge is different. Now it's about building a company, a culture that can carry their mission into the future.
So how do you attract top talent when you're competing with a place like Google? It's not just about money. Their unofficial strategy is something they call the Vibes Protocol. Kind of funny, but it's serious. They're looking for people who aren't just looking for a job, but who are genuinely mission-driven and want to be part of a collective dream.
When you boil it all down, the problem they exist to solve is this huge imbalance. Right now, AI is making it cheaper and easier than ever for criminals to launch attacks. The barrier to entry is getting lower and lower. Meanwhile, for the defenders, the cost and complexity of defense remain incredibly high. Overwatch's entire mission is to use AI to completely flip that dynamic on its head.
And that really leaves us with the big question. As AI becomes more and more powerful, it's going to create new, scarier threats. No doubt about it. But as the Overwatch Data story shows, it might also be our single greatest tool for fighting back, empowering the defenders in a way we've never seen before. The AI arms race is officially on.